for the best deals, and going back and forth with brochures to choose our perfect hotel. Cut to 2005 and enter makemytrip.com, a portal that allowed us to cater to all our travel needs, be it flight tickets, holiday reservations, hotel packages, all at the click of a button. It is my pleasure to introduce to you today Mr. Deep Kalra, the pioneer of online travel in India. Mr. Kalra is the founder and group executive chairman of India's leading travel online portal, makemytrip.com. He has steered Make My Trip as CEO since its inception in 2000 to a successful listing on NASDAQ in August 2010. Deep Kalra is the co-chair of CII's National Committee on Tourism and Hospitality. He is on the board of Thai NCR chapter and served as president from 2013 to 2016. He is also one of the founding members of Ashoka University and serves on their governing body and board. Deep has been recognized by Ernst & Young as Entrepreneur of the Year, Business Transformation 2011, and as the most powerful digital influencer in India 2012 by KPMG. He is passionate about sustainable tourism and has been championing the cause through his Make My Trip Foundation. He holds an MBA degree from IIM Ahmedabad and a bachelor's degree in economics from St. Stephen's College, Delhi. Deep, we look forward to hearing your learnings from your trip as an entrepreneur. I would now like to invite Ms. Ujjwala Singhania, President Flow, to give her welcome address.
Thank you very much, Smriti. A very good afternoon to everyone. It is my pleasure to welcome you all to this very interesting session with Mr. Deep Kalra, CEO of Make My Trip. Today, we'll be talking about travel and tourism industry, and our topic of the day is Reboot and Revive. Technology and digitization has completely changed the way we plan our travel. Mr. Kalra, the man behind the turnaround and the pioneer of online travel in India, is perhaps the most apt person to talk about the tourism industry and the changing environment. With COVID-19, the tourism sector was widely impacted. Today, with COVID-19 intensity decreasing, domestic and international travel is showing a strong graph of recovery. Mr. Kalra, as an entrepreneur, has successfully managed to turn around Make My Trip to rule the travel industry and its credibility and innovation. Let's hear from him about his experiences, his journey, and his thoughts on travel and tourism industry. Mr. Kalra, as a token of our appreciation and gratitude, we would like to present a virtual memento and a green certificate for you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. As we start our next session today, Mr. Kalra, I would like to ask you, the only way to discover the limits of the possible is to go beyond them into the impossible. If you have to break out of the mold, you have to think in a different way. What is your eureka moment? What made you take the plunge of leaving a corporate job to become an entrepreneur? What was your journey till now?
Firstly, thank you very much for having me, both Ujjwala and Smriti, who I know as Simi. So it's really a pleasure to be here with Flo. I was telling you the other day, and please call me Deep as well. I think we keep it informal. I've spoken at Flo before, in person, of course, many years ago, and it's a big pleasure to see Flo grow. I've been closely associated with Vicky in many ways, so all very close to me, and lovely to be chatting with all of you today. So great question to start off, Ujjwala. A couple of things really. I think so I had done 8 years of a corporate job before starting Make My Trip. And if I can just correct Smriti, the company actually started in 2000, but for the first 5 years, we focused entirely on the US-India market, non-resident Indians traveling to India. I had worked 8 years post my MBA. I think I was clearly restless that I wanted to do something of my own. and the internet provided the perfect kind of stage and the setting to do that. I did get quite convinced spending my time on the internet that this is going to change all our lives. So I got pretty excited and I said, I will go ahead and try to build a business here. Why travel? A couple of things. Well, why the internet is one, that was my mini Eureka moment, and why travel is the second. So why the internet? Actually, of all the things, I was trying to sell a second-hand car for my wife online. It was a Zen, I remember. I was used to work with G Capital. And I put it on a couple of portals like Automart India. And I also shared it with my friends. This is way back in 99. I just shared it with my friends who were in car finance, etc. Interestingly, the offline version through my friends, etc., was getting quite cumbersome. I did get offers. On the other side, the online, I remember an email popping up and someone saying, I'm interested in the car and this is how much I can pay. Can I come and see it on this weekend? And another person said the same. Both of them showed up. Both of them took barely 10 minutes. Both were, I guess, professionals. And we closed the deal in literally in matter of minutes at a price which was 20,000 rupees higher than what I was getting offline through my friend's thing. So the Eureka thing, what it told me is there's something going on out here with the internet, and only later to realize that something is called disintermediation. That's what was happening. We were taking away the middlemen. We were taking away the brokers and the sub-brokers. And we could put the customer directly in touch with the other customer. So the seller with the buyer in this case, with two layers at least taken away, each of which wanted to make 10,000 rupees probably. The second one was, again, 99. We were actually traveling to Phuket and we were trying to book a trip just before kids. And just before we had kids, and the tickets got done very quickly. So just like Smriti said, I called up my travel agent. He booked the tickets on Thai Airways, etc. But the hotel was taking a long time. There was a lot of back and forth on the hotel. The travel agent was sending brochures, which would reach after a day. He was saying, come and sit with me, which was just, difficult to do. And then I went online and there was a website called Asia Travel Rooms or asiarooms.com, probably doesn't exist now. And I saw the same hotels that were being offered, saw pictures of them. They looked pretty compelling. There was a little bit of fear, I must add, because I thought maybe we'll end up in a hotel which is not like the picture suggests. So this phenomena called what you see is not what you get. And I was scared about that. I was also, my wife was actually expecting our first baby. So I wanted to be very careful that we land up in a good place. But I took the risk. I dropped my credit card online and we ended up in Phuket in this hotel called Coconut Lagoon. Not very expensive. It was about $70 a night, way back in 99, which was pretty good. And it was perfect. It was pretty much 90% of what the picture said. And maybe we saved $100 by just going directly. That $100 is probably a few $1,000s today. And that again told me that there's scope for intermediation right here in travel, probably even more so because what you're booking, you don't actually need anything, like a good doesn't have to be delivered. And I think I started connecting the dots and I took the plunge in April 2000 and started Make My Trip. So yeah, a couple of moments. Smriti, I think you're on mute. Smriti.
Smriti, you're on mute.
Unless the moderator has put her on mute.
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. So you once said in an interview, that people thought you were crazy when you started the idea of Make My Trip. And then after that, there has been travel had to go through a lot of pain points like the dot-com bust, 9/11, and the pandemic. Really, I think there were really tough times ahead again for travel. What has been your strategy to cope with these tough times?
I think a lot of people still think I'm crazy, so I'm quite used to that now. Yeah, I think the pandemic has been the toughest thing possible for any business, at least in the field of travel. There's just no question that it's probably the worst hit business. Although my friend Ajay Bijli of PVR says his business is hit even worse. So we keep arguing who's hit worse, but suffice it to say that both these businesses have been hit very hard because the very nature of what you're attempting to do is to congregate and be together. And, that goes against the principles of how to keep COVID away. So the first lockdown, the national lockdown, which I think still gives chills to me, and I get a shiver up my spine when I think about March 24, 2020. For 2 months, we were locked down, as we all recall. It also meant for a travel business, unlike most other businesses, your revenues plummeted to zero. We are NASDAQ listed, which is in the US. We report our earnings every quarter. So we had to report. I had the unenviable task of reporting our quarter for April, May, and June of that year, of which 2 months were virtual lockdown. The next month, barely anyone was traveling. It was really emergency travel, people coming and being with their family, or there was quarantining in hotels, etc. Nothing else was happening way back in June. So this is called an earnings call. So when you go on, some of you would be aware of, so I said half in jest that this is more like a lack of earnings call. Our revenues had fallen 95.5%. So from last year, I mean, it was virtually nothing. So you have to come out and you got to report no earnings, but you still have a lot of costs. And while you can slash down, all the marketing got slashed down, except some fixed contracts, which quickly we were clambering around, speaking to advertise our TV networks and various other people and cutting it back. But what about people cost? What about rent? What about hosting cost, website hosting cost? So there was a lot, and obviously it put a lot of strain on the balance sheet. Next few quarters, we fought really hard to bring it back. So we did control costs as much as possible, gave up space, renegotiated with landlords, two things. People for 2 months, honestly, we really promised ourselves that I don't want to let anyone go. But after 2 months, it became clear that we were hurting the others, because we did ask our senior management to take cuts. My co-founder and I, we took 100% cut for a quarter. We asked senior management to take cuts, which they did. And over time, the strain started showing, and we had people then, who were pretty much looking at leaving. At the same point of time, other players in the internet sector, non-travel, started doing really well. As we know, I mean, we've seen all the IPOs that have happened. They've happened fundamentally because the number of people buying online has doubled during the pandemic. So just to give you a stat, before the pandemic, we had 500 million Indians who were online broadly. About 110 million were buying online. They were buyers. During now, let's say 18 months or 19 months into the pandemic, that 110 million number has doubled. It's almost 220, 230 million. So we have more buyers online than the whole of US has. It's become a huge market, and that's why things that could be delivered got delivered. So whether it's Amazon or Flipkart or it's Zomato or Swiggy, all of these, they've had a field day because people needed to eat. In fact, they realized the only thing that was working was online. And all those who used to sit on the fence, so probably all of us are online, but a lot of the older generation, they said, you know what, we don't want to pay online. We're not sure if it's safe, etc. Everyone got used to paying online because that was the only way to pay, and it worked. And once you get convinced, then you don't necessarily go back offline. So for us to navigate through that was very hard, because a lot of our non-travel people, so our tech team, our largest constituency within the company is our technology folks who write programs and code. They were being lured away by the other companies, and they were paying them a lot of money. So this is actually being called, by the way, the pandemic is being called the Great Resignation, like the Great Depression. The Atlantic has just written an article. All of those who you're interested, you must check it out. It is crazy how people are quitting during this time and doing other things. So we were losing product folks, we were losing technology folks, we were losing design folks, going to non-travel because they thought, oh, travel, we don't know when it'll come back. So we had to motivate our people, retain our people. It was very hard. We did take the toughest call I think I had to take in my 21 years of history at Make My Trip, was to ask almost 10% staff to go. It really hurt. We did it as softly as possible, meaning we gave them medical benefits for a year. The guys who had worked with us for long, we helped them personally. We did whatever we could, gave the laptops, gave the mobile phones, but we knew it's going to be very hard to get a job. But if we didn't, then A, we didn't bring down our fixed cost structure. B, we were doing a disservice to the others. Then we converted all our retail stores into franchisees. So we tried to variabilize cost for all of those who are active in business. That was the only thing to do. And then that started getting rewarded as the market started appreciating how well we did cost management. And then business started coming back between the waves. As we know, between first wave and second wave, I think a lot of people were traveling. I certainly did a lot of trips and people were moving around. And then the deadly second wave knocked it out again. But then between second and third, assuming there will be a third wave post Diwali, hope not. But whatever happens, right now, again, domestic travel is back with a bang. It is back. The other day, day before, I had a meeting with the Minister for Civil Aviation, Mr. Sindhya, and I was telling him, yeah, we're back.
मैं मजाक कर रही थी कि 3 लोग बड़े बैठे हैं यहाँ पे, तो कुछ मुझे बताओ और उसके साथ तेरे को
requesting everyone to mute, please.
प्लीज अभी बताएंगे, भेजेंगे व्हाट्सएप कर अभी एकदम मुझे याद भी नहीं
I think it's Saloni Mehta's thing. Okay. So I was telling the minister that domestic travel is back. It's pretty good to see. It's back about 75%. And he said, no, it's back 81, 82%. And he actually clicked on his big screen and he showed me the data of the previous day. Hats off to, Jyoti Sindhya for being on the ball. But that's the amount of domestic travel that's back. 80% people are back traveling. But international is another story. Despite 20, 30 countries being open for Indians, people are hesitant to travel. They're hesitant to travel because of multiple reasons. They don't want to get stuck in a foreign land, multiple, tests required. We all know if you want to go to Dubai and come back, I know each one has considered that. Some have gone. You will take 5 tests. So when people are saying, let's go see the India-Pak match, not only is it on Karwa Chauth, on top of it, so a lot of people are not going for that right now, which makes sense. So I think Maldives has become a hot favorite just because it's easy to go and testing is easy. It also gained a lot because it was one of the smartest ways to cool off before going to the US, spend 2 weeks there and go there. So this crowd, everyone knows that. So I think international travel is back at max 10%. And it won't come back till borders ease up. So I think we're going to have to live with that. We have, totally acclimatized Smriti to the new norm. Office is open again. I'm in office right now. We don't like more than 15 or 20% people to come to office. So we are only inviting double vaccinated. We've done our camps in office. So only double vaccinated can come. And every day, randomly, 10 to 20 people are tested on a rapid test. And thankfully, it's all negative till now. But the moment you get a positive, it's time to react. It will happen, right? It can't go on forever. So, but we are giving a lot of space. So if you have only 15, 20% people coming in, that means 1 in 5, 1 in 7, 1 in 10 seats is empty. So you feel really comfortable. If you have a cabin, then you can come every day and remove your mask like I'm doing. But if you're sitting outside, you have to keep your mask on all the time. And it has to be an N95 or a surgical. So I am very, very anal about that because I believe office should not be the place where we become a spread zone. So yeah, it's tough times, but we have to get used to it. Doing a lot of work with bodies like, FICCI through CII. I've been representing the government and actually representing to the government for industry testing norms. One of the most exciting things I can share with you that we did during the first wave, and that kept me very busy, very occupied, and very motivated through the first wave, was we got the opportunity to build Arogya Setu app. So my team built it. I was program manager for it, and for I think that's all I did for 3 months. And daily calls with PMO, daily calls with Niti Aayog, and we built it pro bono, and then we handed it over. So that was a great one for us. It was 50 million downloads in 11 days. The fastest growing app ever in the world actually was Arogya Setu. And the idea was one of my colleagues, and we just seized it. So you have to innovate where you can innovate, but we didn't want to actually make it commercial. We thought it's the right thing to do. And that's the way to take it. And if I can share one more lesson as leaders, and many of you would be heading your companies, I think it's critical that you spend even more time with people, albeit over a virtual platform if it can't be real, keeping them motivated through this time. So you can't but afford to be positive. People are asking how you calm and how you positive if the kind of business is gone. And my true answer is, what choice do we have? We have to be positive, because if we are not, everyone in the company is looking at you and your face is telling the story. If your face is a long face, then they say things are really bad or worse than we know, we better get another job. And if your face is positive, then they say, well, he probably knows something that we don't know. And he's looking fairly optimistic, still joking, still, kind of keeping everyone going. So I think it's our duty as leaders to emanate that positivity and to be there for people. We also know the second wave was deadly, right? We lost one colleague in the pandemic, and believe it or not, two young spouses, and we tried everything possible to save them, give them the best of cure, but they went. Now that's never coming back. So how can we be there for those people? The admin team and the HR team, that's what we were doing. We took part in ACT. We imported 400 to 500 OCs, distributed them. So I think we did a lot of stuff. We also helped set up the first COVID-only hospital in the first wave in India called Meteor in Manesar. Worked very closely with Dr. Naresh for that and set it up, raised money, set it up. And yeah, I think that is what you have to do when there's a crisis. Then you have to really, stand up and say, we want to help the best we can. And that's one of the other ways of countering, I think, tough times. At least that's my mantra, at least, is to keep yourself really busy doing the right thing. So yeah, when there was no business, then you have to do, humanitarian service.
Right now, I think, and it's amazing to know that, you were the key team in doing the Arogya Setu app. I think that's really amazing, and pro bono makes it sound even better.
Yeah.
So my next question to you is that, like rightfully, like what you just said, in a way that if we don't innovate, we stagnate. So how do you keep moving after you reach a high place? Like, when you've already reached sort of a pinnacle, then how do you scale up your business? What should you keep in mind?
Yeah, so firstly, Smriti, I don't think there's any pinnacle. I think the moment you think you've reached the top or you've reached a pinnacle is the beginning of the end. For a very simple reason, you can be number one in your field, like let's say in a business, but that's all temporary, right? It changes so fast. And if there's one area which changes very fast, it's technology. It's changing. And if anyone should know it, we should know it, because we disrupted the world of travel. Just like you said in your opening comments, we took it from offline, we took it online, we disrupted it. But we can get disrupted ourselves if we get comfortable. And it's happened to the best of companies. So I'll give you a great example. When mobile became the way to go online, not so long ago, 8 years ago or something, before that, it was all web. You could either take it as a new opportunity, or you could be in denial saying, no, we have everything is on the website. Mobile pe thodi koi kharidega. Mobile is so difficult. How will you do it? No one realized the power of the small screen, what you can do on an app. All the functionalities are there. People would say screen is small. Guess what? That screen you can bring next to your face and make it as big as you want. You can pinch out, you can make the images bigger. No one thought of the power of 4G, which is internet everywhere, on the move, at home Wi-Fi, iPhones and other Android phones being made so smart that you can do many more things. In fact, people prefer now booking on the app because the app also knows where you are and therefore gives you much more relevant and contextual content, serves it up if it's a smart app. So either we could have taken that as this is a small thing, or we could have taken it as a new opportunity. Hey, let's make sure that we are equally good on this, if not better. Thankfully, we chose the latter, and we actually internally made a diktat that all work now is going to stop on the web, except if there's something which is completely broken, then we have to fix it. That's a thing. But no new development on the web. All new development will happen on the app. And so app became the thing. So luckily for us, that took us even further ahead. But in many cases, we might have missed the bus in some things, and then you have to play catch up, etc. So I think fundamentally in our business, and maybe in most businesses today, because almost every business now, which is, if you have a profit pool in your business, let me tell you, someone else is already eyeing it and vying it and trying to figure out how they can get a bit of that pie. And it doesn't last forever. So it could be anything. You just look around, look at Big Bazaar's story. What a great story it was, right? So from where to where Big Bazaar was built, I know Kishore Bhai built a fantastic story, understood India. And then suddenly what happened? Over leverage, extended, whatever, or the new formats came in. But one of the biggest thing that has happened is actually e-commerce. And e-commerce is now, people like us at least are saying, I don't even want to go to the store to buy something common. I'll just order it online, it'll get done, that kind of thing. So I think things are changing dramatically. The restaurant business is being challenged a lot by home deliveries, and of course the pandemic notwithstanding. So almost all businesses out there are getting challenged in different ways. And if you're not smart and not on your toes, which means if you don't innovate all the time, you're more likely than not to be caught napping and probably end up at the bottom of the pile. So that's our motto all the time. Challenge. I do encourage people out here to take risks. So when people join, I mean, I interview who I can interview, but obviously now we have 3,000 people. I can't interview everyone, but I do a monthly immersion talk is what we call it, which is we get everyone who's joined through 1 week program of induction. And then I spend an hour or so with them, hour and a half sometimes, depending on the size of the group. And really the biggest message I'm giving them is we want you to be mini entrepreneurs out here. We want you to come and take risks, calculated risks, take people along on the pros and cons of this risk and the budget and what could happen great, what could happen not so great. But if you don't do that, then you're not in the right company. We want people who are risk takers out here because otherwise it's just another job. So, that culture really helps, that people are encouraged to take risks, knowing fully well some will fail. It's okay.
Mr. Kalra, your journey is truly very inspirational. I must say there is a lot of learning for us from today's session. Thank you so much. Mr. Kalra, I would like to ask you, unfortunate part of the tourism industry is that it is the highest contributor of carbon emission in the country. Being passionate about sustainable tourism, you started the Make My Trip Foundation. Do you see the industry adapting to sustainability in the near future? And what are your future goals of the foundation?
Yeah, no, thank you for that. And you are right. I think there are many positives about, firstly, travel, just besides it being a business. I've asked people before pandemic, during pandemic, the one question, what do you love the most? So before pandemic, it normally used to be, either travel or spending time with family or golf or things. During pandemic, everyone only had one answer. What are you missing the most? Travel. I didn't find any other answer because even the eating out got satisfied. You could order in, and we all know that we, probably eating and overeating during the pandemic, sitting at home, we were binge watching on Netflix. We did all of that stuff. But the one thing we were missing was travel, and travel has to be done with, gay abandon, with freedom. That's the whole point, and meeting people. So, this term called well-traveled is a really interesting one. What does well-traveled mean? Well-traveled means that you have traveled to different lands, which means you're probably well-educated and you're probably aware of what's happening. So being well-traveled is very important. So yes, one of the travails of travel is that there's a mode of transport, and that obviously has a carbon footprint. But let's not forget, there are many other culprits for carbon footprint also. So air conditioning is one of the biggest culprits. And therefore, the developed countries are the ones who are actually the ones depleting the ozone layer more than anyone. And therefore, we have all these issues when it comes in the climate summit and everything else, where they don't want to take the goals, but India has actually taken up brave goals. But coming to our foundation, so why did it start? It started because, like you rightfully said, we were acutely aware of the fact that every time we're getting someone on a trip, helping them make a trip, they also have a carbon footprint. So can we help offset that carbon footprint by requesting them to give a tiny amount of money, us putting in our CSR funds, putting it together, and then probably planting trees with an NGO to offset that. You'll be happy to know that now we have planted 1.1 million trees through the foundation. Most of this work has been done through an NGO called Seva Mandir, incredible NGO, old NGO. It is set up just outside Udaipur by the Mehta family. And they've been doing this as third generation, professionally run. And we go once a year as volunteers, and we go and do planting with the villagers. And we've seen the hills outside Udaipur where it's being done. So it's very, very well done, well managed. Mortality rate of trees is pretty low. So they're really doing a good job. Now we're working with a few more partners. The other thing which we feel is a really big threat to future travel. So we guys might be able to travel everywhere, but we also know what has happened to the top 5 travel destinations of India. Do we want to go to Mussoorie now? Not really. I mean, we might go to JW Mussoorie and stay outside and not even go to the mall road. Do we want to go to Nainital? Not really. Do we want to go to Shimla? Not really. Do we want to go in peak season to North Goa and be stuck on the roads? Not really. So there are many places which we have actually, and Manali. I went to Manali recently before the pandemic in peak season, and it was nothing like the Manali that it used to be. Completely gone. So much traffic, more traffic than NCR. No clean places to walk. The river has been littered completely. It was just a horrible sight. In fact, it prompted me to write a editorial for Times of India saying, really, we are killing our future of travel. So we also realized that the biggest menace for this is single-use plastic. And all you have to do is go to any of the beaches of India. And we said we have to do something about this. So people need water when they're traveling, and therefore water bottles. And the most convenient way to transport water is in the PET bottles that we use, or not even PET, those thinner plastic bottles that you get, whether it's Kinley or any other brand. What if there was an alternative? So we did a brainstorm. How can we change this? So firstly, we said, let's go to a small place where we can actually work with the government and do something. So the first thing was, let's set up water ATMs. What is a water ATM? It could have been free water provided, where groundwater is clean. Groundwater is meetha. It can be, it's potable water. And secondly, the government's willing to work with us. So we identified Neil Island next to Havelock Island in Andamans. I had been to Andamans multiple times and I really liked the place. I knew it's a beautiful place to go. Port Blair was too big. Havelock also is quite large, maybe Havelock next. But first we went to Neil Island, smaller, beautiful island, beautiful beaches. If anyone's been to Havelock and you've been to Radhanagar Beach number 5, it's probably the most beautiful beach in the world. It's ranked always as the top 10 beaches. You can walk half a kilometer into the sea with waist level water, white silvery sands. It's just beautiful. Where Taj has built their new property and Barefoot is there. We worked with the government. They gave a lot of support. We funded 2 water ATMs near the beaches with Tata Chemicals. And we also built a block where we converted an old bus into a toilet block, 2 separate ones, male and female, showers for females, changing room for females, even a breastfeeding room for females, and lockers. Because we realized one of the biggest deterrent for ladies to use the beach is where we're going to change, how we're going to change, where do we go to the loo, etc. And we clearly want to keep our beaches clean. And it became an instant hit. The chief secretary flew down from Port Blair, came in his chopper, came there, inaugurated it. It's been an instant hit. And now, post-pandemic, we'll see how it's being used and we'll take it to the next level. We've been promised by the government, if this picks up, we will ban the use of all single-use plastic bottles. Right now, they've already banned the small one, 250 or 200 ml ban, 500 ml ban. Only 1 liter and 2 liter are allowed, which are less harmful because it's thicker polymerized plastic. It actually is not that very thin one, with polythene is the most harmful, which lives for 1 million years. So hopefully we can make it single-use plastic free by just doing this. We give reusable bottles to all our customers, and people obviously can carry a water bottle. Everyone overseas, when we are overseas, we carry water bottles, but in India, we don't want to carry water bottles. Now we are maybe. And then we want to go to Andamans, want to go to Havelock, and the goal is to make the whole archipelago of Andaman single-use plastic free, and then try to go to Goa, etc. You know, if we don't do it, our kids will not travel in India. And it won't be their fault. It won't be because they're being snobbish. It's because they won't have a good experience. They will just see overcrowding and filth everywhere. There are many other problems there of overcapacity. Why don't we have a concept of carrying capacity, which is more than a certain number of people are not allowed into a certain place. All hill stations typically have one road coming to the hill station up the hill. You can control it. Don't allow more people so that people aren't staying, overcrowded in homes or sleeping in the cars, and putting pressure on the resources of that place and making it no fun for others. Spread it out. People can go to other places, and therefore internet can play a big role where you say only advanced bookings. Don't just land up and try to find a place. We're working with Sonam Wanchuk in Ladakh. He has a very exciting foundation there where we are doing work with a new kind of plantation called Miyawaki plantation. The biggest problem of Ladakh, by the way, is flash floods. Flash floods happen where otherwise it's a cold desert, but when you get the rivers in spate, the Zanskar, you have a flash flood and it washes out all vegetation and erodes a lot of land. If you can grow trees very fast, that was his thinking, then you can have, the trees can actually grip the soil and you won't have the damage that is caused with flash floods. Very smart thinking. And so we are funding part of that project with him. And then we're working with WWF in Northeast for eco cafes. We think that's an interesting way to grow as well. So yeah, any projects which can help. So the filter I use to select a project, and I've encouraged the team to use, is firstly, it's got to be in a poor part of the country which has high tourism potential. Because otherwise, like, nothing wrong with Rajasthan, but they have money and they'll take care of themselves and they've done a wonderful job for tourism, maybe Kerala too. But the poorer parts don't get the money. So let's work there. And secondly, something which is around sustainability. So working even with hotel partners around sustainability. Honestly, I think it's our responsibility. If we don't do it, then there won't be any place to travel in India. And so next pandemic, no one will be traveling. You can't go overseas because it's a pandemic, and in India, you won't want to go anywhere else. So I think it's imperative.
Thank you so much. Great work being done by your foundation for the environment. This is totally neat for today. My next question is, Jet Airways is to resume domestic travel in 2022. Then Tata Group buying Air India, and now Rakesh Jhunjhunwala announcing the launch of his new aviation venture. Exciting news in the world of travel. Are these indicatives of recovery in air travel? What are your inputs on it?
Yeah, it's very exciting. So the most exciting of the three, I have to say, is Air India getting privatized finally. And full credit to the government for getting it done. I can tell you many people have tried in the past, it never got done. Finally, it's got done. And the best part of it is that it's actually gone to, I think, the rightful home. I don't think there's a better organization than the Tatas to take over Air India and to bring it back to its glory of what our national carrier used to be. We've only heard stories of that, how Air India was right up there and people would actually choose Air India for its service. And we all know where it is now. Sadly, many of us avoid Air India for its service. So that has to change. We've got to. So I'm very excited about the fact that Tatas will be capitalizing it and bringing it back to its glory. The other two news items also very exciting. I am not entirely sure that it'll be that easy. But the fact, Jet Airways, I'm talking about first. So Jet Airways to come back won't be that easy. I'll be the happiest if they do, but there are many issues. There are many, many liabilities out there. I also think fundamentally running an airline is among the toughest businesses in the world. It really is. So for getting the right team to do that will be very important, getting the trust back, but it's a great brand name. Is brand name enough? Time will tell. The Rakesh Jhunjhunwala backed airline, I think I'm more bullish about because they have the team. They have two excellent guys, Vinay Dubey, who was leading Jet before Jet went down, and Aditya Ghosh, who's also a friend, and Aditya was president of Indigo. So we have two people who really know it. And if anyone knows, backing the right company, it's obviously Rakesh Bhai. So I'm very excited about that one, Akasa. And I think they will fly next year. So it's going to be interesting times. I think, can India take 6-7 airlines domestic? Maybe, maybe not. Might be a tad too many. So there will be exciting time, but good news for consumers. It's always good for customers, more competition in great pricing. And eventually, I think we'll have some consolidation within the Tata group. Now you can't have 3 carriers which have Tatas, so they'll figure that out. Indigo is obviously the leader, the incumbent. They have 50% plus market share in domestic. And then we have SpiceJet, we have GoAir, and we'll have these 2 new guys. So it'll be interesting to see what happens. By the way, the other, if I can just add, the other very exciting part about domestic air travel or civil aviation, as we call it, is the number of airports that have opened. I think now we have about 110 functional new airports. And what I learned from the minister the other day, we're going to hear of a very exciting helicopter policy, where you'll be able to get on helicopter to many smaller parts in a very massive way, and maybe seaplanes also. So very exciting times ahead to connect the country and to reach any place that you want very quickly. So yeah, exciting times.
Absolutely exciting times. We are really looking forward for Air India, and even Jammu is starting few new international flights. So I'm sure there's a good road ahead. Technology has proven to be destructive across all industry. The shift from paper tickets to online ticket is clearly indicative of total shift in the consumer mindset and preferences. Now we are talking about voice-enabled bookings, chatbots, and artificial intelligence. What are your views on it? What next? Will the human touch disappear completely?
I wish I knew what next, but one thing is very clear. The direction is very clear where it's going. The direction is it's all moving.
Everyone, please mute, please.
Yeah, I think it's thank you. I think it's all moving towards more and more, not just automation, but actually, you mentioned the word artificial intelligence, but actually a lot of data being used to give you more relevant content. That's where it's going. So people are using data science. So I'll give you an example. Let's say Smriti has bought something from us before, and we know that each time she's bought, she likes 5-star hotels, she likes to travel business class. It's happened 4 or 5 times. Now, we would be, I think, silly not to keep offering her budget hotels next time she comes and she's looking in Goa, or keep giving her economy options. It might even be time of day. If, we've got her, like she likes to take a flight around 9 a.m., then maybe we should be offering next time. So a lot of people, travel every week to, let's say, Bangalore, their consultants or whatever, or wherever they have a plant. We know their favorite. Why are we not just saying upfront, do you want to book the usual? Do you want to book last time what you did? So relevancy, context is really important to get, and making it easy. There's no joy left in the booking process. The joy is in the actual traveling. So yes, in the booking part of it, it should be made more and more efficient, comfortable, and easy to get done so that people can enjoy the actual thing. However, I think there'll be more and more human touch in the actual travel. So post-pandemic world, I think people will really enjoy the way travel was meant to be. I love the term revenge travel. I think that's what's going to happen. I'm seeing it happening already. And then people will want to meet people from other places. They'll want to have guides and other people who are showing them around, taking them around, all that stuff, local people. I think that's going to happen in a massive way. But for the booking part of it, unless it's a complex holiday, what we call bespoke vacations, I think most of it is going online. Yeah, I think so.
Yes, absolutely. I think you just took the next question right out of my mouth, because revenge travel is something that I feel a lot of us are really doing it in a big way. And Flo is honestly looking back to revenge traveling in a big way, because we haven't been having our interstates in a while. So with this trend that we are witnessing, especially at the end of the second wave, and I was also reading, and you've done a lot of campaigning around the CoOp Naresh initiative. What is the push, being given by the government, and how do you feel that we can take it forward?
Yeah, I've never seen the government more serious about tourism. So civil aviation has always got bigger budgets, and it's very important to connect. But tourism, I think the budget has always been less than what's expected. But this particular tourism ministry, led obviously given by objective and direction given by the government, is really very focused on one is CoOp Naresh in a big way, and yes, we are partnering with them. And the entire team out there is super focused on bringing the best of India out there, to actually digitizing a lot of the content so you can see various things up front. To also bringing lesser known people, lesser known places to us. And the good news about the pandemic has been that people have started going to lesser known places. Even if there were no big hotels, they're happy to stay in a homestay. So homestays become very big. So our fastest growth area is homestay market. So now homestays are almost getting close to almost 10% of hotels for us, which means people are actually opting for homestays, saying, you know what, in COVID, we'll drive somewhere, we'll stay in a cottage far away, and we'll interact minimally with the 1 or 2 staff that we have. But otherwise, we don't want to get exposed. And we've all done that, right, in pandemic, and we think that's the right way to go. So by virtue of that, you can now get to much smaller places, even if there's no big hotel. because you can have a nice, comfortable homestay. And, you know, on platforms like ours, we'll show the content to you upfront, etc. So I think our government's very committed. They also have a policy coming up for homestays itself. They have different policies for domestic travel, a lot of incentives being planned also. I think from what I understand from Minister of Tourism and the Secretary there is that January 2022, assuming everything stays calm, you're going to see a lot of push on tourism. Till that time, I think people are still, the direction is that we can't, you know, they explained it. We would keep going there and saying, why aren't you doing more? Why aren't you doing more? And they're saying, please listen, please understand, when you make a phone call, you're hearing the voice of a recording saying, you know, wear a mask and stay at home. How can we at the same time be pushing tourism, which is interesting. So you're saying this is the time for caution. Let's just be cautiously travel, and then hopefully we'll open up in a big way by 2022 March, January itself. So fingers crossed.
Right. Yes, we all are really keeping our fingers crossed. And before I open the floor for certain questions, I just want to quickly do one quick rapid fire round with you. So I'll just quickly start off on the questions. The one quality that you look at while investing in a startup, the idea or the leadership?
For me, it's always the team, Smriti. I believe a good team will pivot if needed, will change business model if needed, but the co-founding team is for me everything. That's the most important.
Cryptocurrency or equity stock markets?
Crypto for sure. Equity is passe.
Okay, we need another session on that with you then. Okay, celebrity endorsements, Ranbir Alia, or strategic communications?
There is no substitute. I'll tell you, for the longest time, till 3 years ago, when we signed on Ranbir and Alia and we've renewed with them, we never ever used a celebrity. We were always shy of doing that. We had the budgets, but we weren't sure that, you know, getting associated with a celebrity, we wanted to always push the right message. But finally, we realized that to break into the heartland, so really go beyond the sophisticated 50 million who, you know, really are not swayed by what celebrities say, to make a connect with the heartland, to make a connect with the average Indian beyond this 50 million, celebrities really help. And I think we got very lucky with this pair because they really did a phenomenal job for us. They're incredible folks. I've, you know, I can't say I attend all the shoots. They're very boring, but I've attended one and I've seen these guys. They really give heart and soul to it. And you can see the product. So I think the caveat I would just say is that be ready, have the message right, and then get someone to amplify it, then it's okay. But if you were to start up initially, I'd say get your messaging right. Celebrities can only add that bit of amplification to it.
Okay, one startup idea that you would lay your bets on.
You want name of company or sector or region?
That's also where we should invest. No, then we have a lot of angel investors in the group.
Okay, there's so many, but the one I'm very excited about these days is a healthcare startup. It's called eka.care, eka.care, and it's about digitizing all your medical records, keeping them on the cloud, and then giving you, so let's say I have to go to a doctor while I'm traveling, the doctor has access to eka.care, and I give my password or I get it, I can just pull all my records there. Not only that, all the analytics can be done. So as you get older, they can actually very quickly see charts of how your, let's say, cholesterol or your BP or your various other things, parameters have been trending for 20 years. So we all know it's impossible to keep all the records in one place. So it's been set up by an ex-colleague of mine. So I'm pretty excited about it. And yeah, needless to say, I've invested. So let's hope it does well.
That sounds really interesting. And one milestone that you're yet yearning to achieve?
So many, but I tell people what drives me right now is still, for me, I think the real joy, nirvana will be when every customer can be a brand ambassador. And I still think we are only maybe halfway or 60% there. We still have some way to go. So hopefully one day that's what I aspire for. And that's what makes it exciting for me.
Thanks so much, Deep. I genuinely enjoyed this rapid fire so much, and I hope you enjoyed it too. We have a lot of questions which people are wanting to ask us. So I'll just start off. May I invite Ms. Lalita Nijhavan to ask the question, please?
Good afternoon, Deep. I think you really spoke brilliantly and also very pleasantly with all the smiles and deeply. And it was nice to hear about your foundation too. That's really. So I have two questions basically, Deep. One is that, do you really think the behavior of passengers will change post-pandemic? And do you really think people will pay extra for hygiene, sanitization, and COVID SOPs? Just adding to that so you can answer both at one go. And how do you see technology handling, this pent-up demand that we have? What adjustment will we see in technology post-COVID due to change in consumer behavior now?
Wow. Okay, great question. So I think for a while, people will stay cautious, and we are going to see people take these precautions. Let me give you the example of SARS. So after SARS, which was 2001, which was actually one of the first storms to hit our business, it was also, by the way, COVID-19 virus is actually a form of SARS. That was the first time we saw people wearing masks. And strangely, we would always see people from Far East wearing masks. So Hong Kong and China and Singapore, and they wore masks everywhere. And then we saw during pollution times, people wearing masks. And we would say, why do these guys wear masks? But they'd seen that the only way to keep SARS away was that. Now, they are a disciplined lot. They kept wearing masks, right? Indians are anything but disciplined. So I think we're going to do it for a while, but public memory is short. If the fear goes away, let me tell you, the average Indian is going to say, take off that mask, throw all of them into the dustbin and say, I'm done with this thing. So I don't think it will last that long. Some people will be cautious with health issues, and they should be. I think for some time to come, we should get used to the sight of masks when traveling in large numbers. So airports, airlines, trains, buses, I think it's a good practice because you don't know when it comes back. Some of the most advanced nations of the world have seen their fourth wave. Japan has seen a fourth wave. US is still, parts of US are still burning. So I don't think there's any other way to keep yourself safe. You can keep getting vaccinated, but as we are seeing, vaccinated people can also get COVID. Yes, it'll be mild. So both things will happen in tandem, but public memory is short. So people were asking me the same question about corporate travel. Do you think corporate travel will come back, or people are very happy doing everything on Zoom, etc.? And I said, for a while we will. Internal meetings we'll do, but then all it takes is you to lose a big project to a competitor, and you say, how did it happen? And then the competitor, you find out, oh, they went there, they had meetings, they wined and dined them, they went to, etc., etc. And then the company says, okay, enough is enough, you've got to go. This is important. So I think these things change also. But internal meetings, I actually hope, even though it'll hurt our business, we also have a corporate travel arm. I actually think it's not a bad thing to cut down on a lot of useless travel times and cost for people are traveling for 1 hour meetings, 2 hour meetings. I hope the government keeps doing this. Imagine how efficient it's become to meet the government if they were meeting on virtual platform. That's how it should be. If you know someone, I think meeting on virtual is okay. First time you're meeting someone, virtual is tough. That's pretty hard to strike up a rapport first time. But meeting in person and wearing a mask also is pretty hard. And most government places, you have a big kind of plastic or a glass in between you, you have 2 masks, etc. So I think that's what it will be for coming back. Sorry, what was your question on the technology?
Yes, I want to know, how do you see technology handling, this pent-up demand? What adjustments will we see in technology post-COVID due to change in consumer behavior now?
Just for travel or across the board?
The travel.
Yeah, so for travel, I think people are going to definitely feel more, comfortable pre-booking. So I think it's going to help us a lot, where people are saying, I don't want to show up there and then go place to place. So again, people like us probably don't do it, but a very common Indian trait is to show up at the destination, let's say Goa, take a flight, go to Goa, and then say, we know we want to stay on Baga Beach, and then take a cab and actually go 2-3 hotels, go negotiate across the counter, go and check out rooms. And that's how they book, believe it or not, it's true, only in India. I think all of that will change. With tech, people will be able to see much more of the content beforehand, do virtual tours beforehand and book. Also, I think, like you said, will people pay extra? Over time, probably not. It has to be a uniform effort. So if today, why on every long weekend, like the last one that went by, if you made up a plan to go and travel last minute, you probably wouldn't have got a room. That's what was happening. Everything was chock-a-block. We were in Rishikesh with some friends and we got a room, just about the last few rooms at Taj. And everything was chock-a-block. And that's what's happening. All the resorts now are actually, initially they were discounting to get people back. Now they realize the demand supply has changed. So on any long weekend or in good season, it's the other way around. There's so much demand, there's not enough supply. So the prices have gone through the roof. So people are actually getting, hoteliers are actually making money. So it all comes down to demand and supply. But technology can be the biggest enabler and will continue to help out.
Yeah, thank you.
Thank you.
Yes, I think Malu Natarajan, I invite her. She wants to ask the next question. Thank you, Lalita, for your question.
Thanks, Smriti. Thank you for making my trips easier, Deep. And also, eka.care share prices are going to go up with about 50 of us planning to invest in it. Thanks for the tip anyway. Deep, I used to know of a CEO of a Singapore bank who used to call up customer help desk of other local and international banks to understand the competitive edge and to learn new approaches. So in your case, have you tried booking tickets from other OTAs or other companies? And if yes, what are the lessons learned from the experience?
Yeah, by the way, Ika is still a private company, so I don't think that'll happen. I'm not trying to do any insider trading.
That's a very unfair suggestion.
It's a startup. Well, you said startup. You didn't tell me a listed company. Startup. If you said listed company, I can give you the best tip. The ticker is MMYT on NASDAQ. There's no better company to invest in. Okay. You can check that out.
Take a look on that.
So Malu, I think, what you're saying on competitive testing, I'm actually very proudly guilty of the same. So I do it all the time. In fact, my staff is sick and tired of me doing it. And I'm not saying there are no great Indian companies. There are good, but I also go cross industry. So I also like to pick up small things on even, what an Amazon or an Uber is doing well, or Instagram is doing well, which we can pick up. But I have made so many bookings in the past on an Expedia.com, or Booking.com, and Airbnb all the time. And booking, canceling, losing some money, but learning a lot. But my biggest learning, to be honest, is not from competition. My biggest learning is actually always from consumer. So I'm the one always pushing for consumer labs. Even through pandemic, we've done them, but otherwise we do them. We have a moderator interview the consumer. So firstly, we'll recruit the kind of consumer we want. So let's say I want to get consumers who buy tickets with us, domestic, international, who buy domestic hotels, but don't buy international hotels from us. Why? So we'll recruit 10 of them, and we'll do 1-hour sessions with each. And the moderator at halftime will break and ask us, we're in the next room. We've told them they're paid to do this. The recruitee, they're paid a few thousand rupees to come in, and they are being recorded. And then we'll make our points, and then we'll tell the moderator halfway. In the initial days, I would moderate it myself. It was just fascinating. And each time the learning is so amazing because, we all fall into a trap of thinking the consumers like us. Consumer is very, very different today. You will be shocked at the average consumer is nothing like us. It's very, very different. Who has money, who's traveling, who's not. Language, we've just launched in Hindi, and I can't even tell you everything end-to-end in Hindi on the app, and it's going through the roof. And now we're going to do it with more languages. There's so much money in the hinterland, and we think there isn't. And why hinterland? There are people who are more comfortable in Hindi in the biggest cities, and definitely in Gujarati. So, these are just simple examples. I can't share any secret sauce out here, but I'm just saying there is so much to learn, not from competition, from consumer. If you're willing to genuinely listen to consumer, connect the dots, which is you've heard 10 hours of interviews, you're bheja fried, but you've made your points and they keep coming back. that day is well worth the whatever 1 lakh you might have spent on it or whatever you have of such learnings. And then you say, okay, let's build the fix for this or let's build the solution for this. That's how, the best ideas come. Just focus on customer pain points. That's it.
Thank you.
Thank
Okay,
you.
I think are we out of time, Smriti?
Yeah, we have
I can
time
take
for
one last question from Ritu.
Yeah, hi, good evening, Mr. Kalra. Lovely hearing from you the various aspects of this industry. I wanted to know, before the pandemic, people had started exploring offbeat destinations. And do you see that happening even now, that people would rather go to quieter destinations, newer ones, where there won't be many tourists there, whether in India or abroad?
Absolutely. And that's what I hinted at. I said a lot. That's been one of the biggest thing. And that's where the whole homestay thing started. So people are saying, listen, I'm not going to Kasoli, but I'll go 30 minutes away from Kasoli. There are these 2 cottages out there and longer length of stay. And now that I made the trouble to go there, we're going to stay there for longer. Similarly, everywhere. So now you don't have to go where there's a hotel. You have to just go where there's a homestay. Roads are everywhere or this thing. So that's a very big trend. And I think people have enjoyed the joys of that, because earlier on our hill stations were like that. Now, sadly, the hill stations are so crowded that you want to go, or beaches that are lesser known. I think that's going to stay. I think that's a big trend.
Where do you like to go on a holiday? For us, travel is a holiday, but what about you? What do you like to do on a holiday?
So I think my favorite place on the planet is still the Maldives. And, we're planning a trip, and my wife's saying, she also loves it. We both dive, the kids also dive. So we like that. But she's saying it's so predictable, but I love it. For me, it's paradise. But a beach and sea and ocean over mountains. But in mountains, like I love Ladakh. I think it's such an incredible land. Yes, it's a little infrastructure could be improved. The roads and all are a little treacherous, but it's amazing when you get there. In India, I've done actually through pandemic, done just so many trips, little trips here. So whether it was Alwar or whether it was Kasoli or whether recently it was Rishikesh, literally any and everywhere. Kashmir twice, so Kashmir, Gulmarg over New Year's, which was just amazing with the snow. And then again, Pahalgam in summer. So I think Kashmir right now is just beautiful. I know there's some incidents that have happened, but why it's amazing is that in a weird sort of way, terrorism has actually saved Kashmir from going the other way. But I fear if we continue like this, even we'll ruin Kashmir. But the raw beauty of Kashmir is comparable with any in the world, I think.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Deep. We really, really enjoyed learnings from your trip. And may I now invite Jayanti Dalmia ji to give the vote of thanks.
Thank you, Smriti. Thank you, Deepji, for such a lovely talk and frank talk that you gave us. One question before I give the vote of thanks. Are you also planning to tap the rural India for the travel sector? I mean, you think villagers, because I've heard villagers nowadays, like the other day, my servant said that he's going on a holiday. So with his family. So I mean, are you planning to do that also? Would you think it's possible?
It is possible. I think there's a big concept called rural tourism and farm tourism. And so you asked a very good question. Are Indians ready for it? I'm not sure. NRIs, yes. NRIs want to, people who grew up here, they want to bring their kids back and they want to show them what a farm is like. But then, I think I worry about just the hygiene factors around the whole thing, how it's done. So you can go and see sheep shearing, and you can do sheep shearing, by the way, cartwheel itself in New Zealand, right?
Yeah.
Are you ready to go and do that out here? Are you ready to go to a farm? And there are some who've set up. So I think it's a true rural tourism. I'm not sure there are too many takers. Those are the really adventurous travelers who are saying, hey, we're happy to go live like them. We want to go back to the grassroots, etc. But I think there's time. We're still a developing country, right? A lot of that is not forgotten. So you do that when you've forgotten all of that. You were born in a city, you grew up in a city. I think, all of us probably have some memories of that. So it's not so far away. But maybe over time. I mean, I think the big one for India is going to be, next one is adventure and soft adventure. That's really picking up. A lot of youngsters are seeking that. Also, what I think someone just spoke about, being completely out the not so well visited kind of places, the lesser known places. So that is one, and then doing treks there and hikes there, etc. I think that's pretty big.
So, and what about the other way around? The people in the villages coming out to travel.
There I'm with you totally. That's what I was talking about, the money, and therefore our foray into vernacular. That is huge.
I think that
money.
will be very good, the vernacular thing, yeah.
Lot of money there. We underestimate, and people want to travel. We all know in industrial towns, why the airports now in every industrial town? People are just, flying off from there. Do you know there are more private jets that are being used now in industrial or towns like that than in big cities? Because it's also connectivity is hard for them. So there's a lot of money for sure. I think people want to now. A lot of places there are rich farmers who want to travel, and why not?
Yeah, I hope so. The world is changing fast.
Very true.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
A very good afternoon to everyone. It is my pleasure to propose the vote of thanks for this interactive dialogue with Mr. Deep Kalra on the turnaround times for travel and tourism. The discussion today has lent a fresh perspective to the current times in the industry and what could be expected in the near future. There are very exciting times we can look forward to in the future. On behalf of Flow, my sincere thanks to you, Mr. Kalra, for sharing your thoughts and expertise with us. The industry's future landscape has been reshaped, and it has been a very pertinent discussion that we had today on the actions should the stakeholders of industry are taking and what we can expect as travelers. There are no rules or playbook for this situation, and the right answer is constantly shifting. The world is changing very fast. With your valuable inputs, Mr. Kalra, we can be optimistic that soon enough we'll be able to see through a different lens, explore the world with newfound appreciation. And I hope from January 2022, as you said, we will be all ready to join all are traveling back to normal, I hope. Thank you so much, everyone, for joining. Namaskar.
Thank you very much. Fingers crossed. Everyone stay healthy and keep traveling. Okay.
I know. We'd love to.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Mr. Deep.
Thank you so much.
Okay, bye-bye.
Thank you. Take care.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.